Thanks for staying with us. It's still iBrandTV, and it's time to delve into the discussion for the day. Now, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Asuu, has embarked on strike action for a couple of months, and President Muhammadu Buhari has given the Minister of Education, Malam Adamu 2 weeks to find a solution. The President issued the directive on Tuesday after consulting with the Minister and representatives of other relevant institutions. Buhari convened the meeting to hear from government representatives why the strike had persisted for so long. The President instructed the Minister of Education to see that the issues were resolved within 2 weeks and to report back to him after hearing from various ministries and departments. Now, joining us to discuss this development is the political technocrat himself, Dr. Dayo Kayode. Good morning.
Morning, Samson. How are you?
Good morning,
Fine.
Dr. Dayo.
Morning, Margaret. Long time.
Yes,
Looking
Dr.
so nice.
Thank you. So you
This
too.
already looks like those women of
The 80s. I know you're going to say that.
60s.
60s. That's I wasn't born then, actually.
Sometimes we take it back, you know.
All right. Okay, so Dr. Dayo,
Good
let's go to the topic of the day. We said the directive the president had given, and over time we've heard so many directives that didn't see the light of the day. From days ago, the president said enough is enough, and other this year had this to say. He said when he's the president, such statements should be taken with so much urgency. But we saw would I use like a desiccal attitude that had come with. What do you think about this directive? Do you think it would go the way of other directives, or it's actually something to stand by?
You see, our president is somebody that is full of vacuous statements, empty promises. He will say something like this. Instead of him to follow it up, he just relax. Governance is not about making statements. Governance is about action. Governance is about making statements and following it up. Severally, he had made so many statements. Even as regards this Asuu issue. How many days now? He has made statements as much as the number of days that Asuu has been on strike. And what have we said? I don't see this strike coming to an end until when our president, Mr. Muhammadu Buhari, is ready to be decisive. Not just sitting down in his comfort zone in Asuu Rock.
What do you mean ready to be decisive?
Decisive in terms of saying something and following it up. Decisive in terms of taking action, taking appropriate action. What is wrong in even the president himself sitting down? Because this thing has become so protracted. And you see children at home loitering the streets. Mother will have gone out in the morning to go and look for daily bread. The father will have gone out in the morning also to go and look for daily bread. Well, who takes care of the child, of these children at home? By so doing, you see them now engaging themselves in some nefarious activities that are antithetical to normal societal norms and values. And that is why we are seeing what we are saying today. Drug abuse, sexual immorality, and all sort of, even, and banditry. So it is high time that the president will stand up and ensure that this problem is resolved once and for all.
And you don't think that action is now, barely 2 weeks ago, he said enough is enough. Now he's giving a directive to, the minister. The report has it that he met with representatives of various, ministries in that sense, and met with stakeholders concerning the education sector. You don't think he's ready to really take action on this?
Even the one you said he mentioned 2 weeks ago, what result has he been able to achieve? So as that one has not achieved anything, I don't see this one achieving anything also. Because that is his character. Governing by altering statements. Governing by sitting down without any action. except he takes action only when he wants to go on medical tourism. That is when you see him going on, having action, or when he wants to go for Jamboree meetings. Remember when there was a Kuje jailbreak, instead of him to sit down and sort it out, he traveled to where again? Senegal also. And that was why you now see them, you now see their leaders, even Tobani, their leaders.
Okay, let's look at it this way. A new directive is on board. Let's make do with that rather than the past. But don't you think that with the new directive and the
Samson,
timeline...
there's no way you can do away with the past.
No.
Because the past will dictate what you're going to have in future.
What I'm saying is, you know quite well with governance and government, it is a continuum, and we know quite well how these things play out on the larger scale of things. You know what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is this. Now there's a new directive on board, and there's a 2 weeks timeline for it. Do you think we'll have Minister of Education, Labour, and Asuu back on the negotiation
Samson,
table?
thank you for that particular word. Government is a continuum. That is, it moves. But this one is static. This is a static government.
Okay,
let's reason together. Tell me, what is it that has moved forward in this country since the inception of this government? Rather, it's moving backwards.
Okay, let's look at
or remaining at a point, at a spot.
Let's look at the 2 weeks timeline. Within 2 weeks, I mean, they've had series of meetings and negotiations that have failed over the past 5 months. The timeline is 2 weeks that the president gave the Minister of Education. Within 2 weeks, do you really think Asuu and the federal government represented by Ministry of Education, Labour, can really come to some sort of I wouldn't say agreement or conclusion, but can find common ground? Yeah, that's the word.
It is only our religious centers that are able to talk about that within 2 weeks, yes, from their crystal ball, they are saying this will happen. Not me. Because I will talk about what has been happening in the past. Because there is no way you can remove the past from the future. The past plus today is what makes tomorrow. And if I now want to juxtapose what he has been saying in the past with his actions, with what is happening today, I will tell you that it's going to be the same. Well, we're already in a cul-de-sac.
There's a place for benefits of doubt.
No, I don't do that.
Why?
I don't do that.
Because
you know, this is a national television, and of which some of us that comes around gives people hope. And people have been saying they are tired of false hope. So if I'm now saying, yes, there's a room for benefit of doubt, like you said, and I'm now saying, okay, yeah, 2 weeks, it's most likely, and when it's not now likely, they say, don't see that Dr. that is calling himself political technocrats. Look at it now, 2 weeks, they are still at home. So between you and me, I will always work with the past and what is happening now to be able to predict the future. Our president has been a lackadaisical president that doesn't take action whenever action is needed. He has been somebody who has not been relating with the needs and aspirations of the people. He has refused to listen to the people as regards where the shoe is pinching them. Rather looking at his own comfort and the comfort of his family.
While we talk about the president, let's not forget that he has people that he has delegated these duties to. Now, for instance,
sorry, before you continue, that delegation, the management has delegated the two of you to be here, and you have always been here. If you are not performing, and your management is still delegating you here, then your management is a failure. That is what we call leadership responsibility. Whatever failure this country is having today, the buck stops on him and he bears responsibility. I remember former president Ibrahim Babangida as regards June 12. When people were talking about this and that, he said, well, heap the whole responsibility on me. And he decided to own up whatever has happened as regards June 12. So whatever failure this country is experiencing now, whatever failure is bedeviling this country presently, the responsibility will and must be on the president.
Now, quite understood, but let's also forget we have a Minister of Education, we also have a Minister of Labour. Now, they
remove them and then put competent people.
The fact is that some days ago, they announced a solidarity strike that will begin next week, Tuesday.
Sure.
Let's not forget when...
And I'm going to join them. I'm going to be part of it.
Aside the strike, will the strike even go anywhere? Because this Minister of Education worked out on the students.
Is that not an issue?
No, and in
the
itself, the person has still done nothing about it. So if this person, who is supposed to be a Minister of Education, had done this, don't you think it's coming from the direct contact rather than for some things to get to the president? This is not me trying to defend him or anything, but I'm saying that people had delegated authorities. This is the president of a whole nation with how many million people in it?
No. He who pays the piper dictates the tune. It is the directive of the person who has sent you that you have to follow. All right? If you are not following the directive of that person, if there's a kind, even the minutest of negation, if it's there, that person that sent you will deal with you.
So
now, since then, since he worked out on the people he was negotiating with, 1, 2, since he has not been able to solve this imbroglio ever since, what has the president done? Is he not having the full right to hire and fire?
Okay.
To be a minister is not a ministerial position, is not an elected position. He needs nobody to tell him whether to remove or retain him. When you know this person is not doing your bidding, why don't you remove him? So that is to say that the minister is doing the biddings of the president.
Okay, let's look at it this way. I know you said earlier that you were going to join the NLC.
By the grace of God.
On that solidarity
sure.
strike. I would like to hear your opinion. First off, will 2-day strike have protest have an effect? I mean, we've seen these solidarity strikes in time past, or protests, have really no bearing when it comes to changing the impact. But now, 2 days, do you think that would have an impact? That's 1. 2, do you think the unions under NLC will comply with that directive? There's so many unions, so many bodies, under the Labour Congress. Do you think everyone will be on board this time around for those 2 days?
Do you know why I decided to say I will join them? Because there are other unions that have also proclaimed their solidarity towards Asuu. 1, the banks. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
NUPEG. Are you aware of that?
Neck.
NMA. Are you aware of that? So many of them. So many of them. So for some people to sabotage it this time around, it will be a bit difficult.
I think shutting down the economy for those 2 days will really, really have an impact.
You see, whether it will have an impact or not, but at least Asuu, we know that the people of Nigeria are in their support, and nobody is leaving them to be on their own. Even we that are in the private sector, we are not leaving them to be on their own. We have to show solidarity. We have to show concern. Do you understand? And to that extent, this government, we now know that to the extent that people supported it the other time, to that extent, it has also lost popularity among the people.
So that means it will have an impact, and within the 2 weeks,
I want to strongly believe that it will have an. I want to strongly believe that it will have an impact. So except we want to turn this country to where did it happen just of recent?
Sri Lanka
or Chile of those years.
Okay.
But if the president is going to learn from history to what happened in Sri Lanka and Chile the other time, I'm sure this time around he'll be forced to listen to the
About what happened
aspirations
in
of the people.
Sri Lanka, do you even see a replication any time in near future happening in Nigeria? Because I feel like that was people coming together.
Listen,
now there were some
Nigerians are getting enlightened
some
now.
labor congresses in some states, there are chapters in some states may not want to be part of the strike because the government of that state probably River State University is not under Asuu.
Are you with me?
I'm with you, though.
Are you with me?
Dr. Dayo, yes.
People are becoming more enlightened that they had better hold their future in their hands than delegating it or transferring it to some unions that can easily sometimes be dissuaded. Let me use that word, be dissuaded, not being bought. Let's don't use the word bought, because you remember the other time when they said Ghana must go bags or flying here and there. So don't let us go to that. But let us be dissuaded. In terms of, look at this. In time past, if pump price is being increased by 5 naira alone, Labour will call for, the civil society organization will call for demonstration and resistance to it. Okay?
I was coming to that.
But this time around, look at what is happening.
Dr. Dayo, I was coming to that because when we had...
Look at what is happening.
It
was increased. Sorry, Margaret. It was increased before by 5 naira. Okay? And nobody winked. And I will say, for goodness sake, where is Nigeria turning to? And these people, because they find out that nobody is winking, they will say, this one is not enough. Let us put it up. Under 2 weeks again. Look at what we are seeing now.
Don't forget, I also mentioned.
Look at what we are seeing
I just
now.
mentioned sabotage, Dr. Dayo, because when we had the former governor of Edo State,
Oshiomhole,
as the labor.
Don't let us go into that. I will also open can of worms on that of Oshiomhole.
Because it's an issue that should be looked into.
We saw how. Don't let us go to Oshiomhole's leadership of NLC and all those incessant strikes as his own
issues.
As his own. Don't let us just open down all this money, because if we open that one, we will not be able to finish it.
Okay.
At that time, I never believed once in Oshiomhole calling for strike at that time, because government will increase pump price from, for instance, 10 naira to 15 naira. You now call everybody. People will come out. People were being killed. People were being maimed. People were being injured. You will now go on the negotiation table with the government. And they will now say, okay, instead of 15 naira, we are now reducing it to 13 naira or 12 naira. You will now come out from that place and you'll be saying, we don't win. What have you won? I always tell him then, before you tell me that you have won, we have to go back to status quo. But how many times have we gone to status quo? No time. Tell me what has happened there. No, listen, there is nobody that doesn't know how to put the meat in the mouth and then for it to disappear. Oshiomhole. Forget that one.
Okay, let's look at it this way. Again, that's based on public perception that during his stint as the leader of the NLC, or the president rather, that the Congress...
When you want to talk of leadership of NLC,
Sumonu,
you talk of Baba Alhaji Sumonu. You remember him?
Let's
you talk about Baba Imodu. But anything after those people, probably Bafia, I think Bafia
was relatively good.
Was after Oshiomhole or before Oshiomhole?
Before Oshiomhole.
Let's look at it.
And that was why Babangida was proposing him then to be the running mate to Abiola.
Let's look at it this way. For all of these issues, where do you expect, the various unions to play a part? We've talked about NLC. There's still the TUC, so that's the Trade Union Congress. Everyone, collaborating to ensure that this so-called injustice in that sense is put to a stop in terms of Asuu being on incessant strike. So is it just the NLC? Is it going to stop with the NLC? You expect the TUC to come on board as well as, other trade congresses?
Whether trade congresses or not, I will even want to talk about the private sector.
Okay.
The private sector should get involved now, because there is no other time than to get involved except now. They are the one that are feeling the pinch of all these infractions. Most of them especially in the manufacturer industries, cannot produce again. Most of us that imports cannot import again. Do you understand? Banks are now operating on a reduced number of hours. They closes their shops by 2, some by 3.
Yeah.
Is that normal? So the private sector should forget about trade union or whatever, and then also move in and ensure that this country is being put back on the path of development and growth.